video is brought to you by LBJ Express. The LBJ Express project represents a team of experienced companies that will rebuild and operate I-635 between Luna Road and Greenville Avenue, as well as I-35E between Loop 12 and Valwood Parkway. To learn about the latest project developments, visit www.lbjexpress.com.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition's Education Series. I'm Linda Coop, Dallas City Council member and Vice Chair of the DRMC. It's not hard to notice that the North Texas area is a beehive of construction activity. Just about every county in the area has some sort of transportation project taking place. You probably feel frustrated at times and inconvenienced by the detours and road closures, but the construction you encounter along your daily route is a grand plan to enhance the region's mobility. When the dust settles, you will have more transportation options and alternative modes of travel. You'll see reduced congestion, resulting in better air quality. And you'll see more livable communities and even a more vibrant economy. These are goals that our region's transportation planners have set forth in Mobility 2035, the North Texas region's vision for our multimodal transportation system. Today, you'll learn about major transportation projects that have been strategically selected to fulfill this plan. We will also speak with local leaders about the significance of these projects and their role in the planning process. Before we meet our panel, I want to give you a tour of the major improvements happening throughout the Metroplex. As one of the most congested and crowded roadways in the nation, I-635, also known as LBJ Freeway, has been selected to go through a dramatic transformation. The LBJ Express project, currently underway, involves expanding 17 miles of congested roadway and will include the reconstruction of existing general-purpose lanes, the addition of tolled HOV managed lanes, and the construction of continuous frontage roads. This gives the drivers the option to use continuous frontage roads or select freeway lanes for short, non-urgent trips, while the managed toll lanes will guarantee to keep traffic moving at 50 miles an hour. The project also includes connection ramps for the HOV managed lanes along a portion of I-35E. Once completed, it will nearly double the capacity on the freeway and is expected to accommodate the future population growth for the next 3 decades. Another significant regional project is the DFW Connector, where State Highways 114 and 121 meet with I-635, north of DFW Airport. This 8-mile corridor sees approximately 180,000 vehicles each day and is an important link between the region's top 2 foreign trade zones, DFW International Airport and Alliance Airport, as well as population centers to the east and west. When complete, this project will include new interchanges, additional general-purpose lanes, tolled HOV managed lanes, and continuous frontage roads. It is a great example of regional cooperation in our transportation planning efforts. The DFW Connector isn't the only major improvement for State Highway 121, parts of which are known as the Sam Rayburn Toll Road. As we move north into Collin County, the completion of the interchanges at US Highway 75 and the Dallas North Toll Road are providing northern suburbs like Plano, Frisco, Allen, and McKinney easier nonstop access to major thoroughfares. Now let's look more closely at a project in the heart of Dallas that's aiming to ease congestion on arterial highways, the Pegasus Project. This project transforms the 2 major interstate highways directly serving downtown Dallas by totally redesigning I-30 from Sylvan Avenue to I-45 and I-35 East from 8th Street to Empire Central Drive, just north of State Highway 183. When originally constructed in the 1950s, these highways fit the needs of the population. Downtown Dallas was a primary destination. Now, more than 50 years since its construction, the region's population growth has shifted. There is a high need to bypass downtown. However, there is a lack of alternative routes. Compounding the problem is the design and layout of these freeways. In many locations, ramps do not have adequate acceleration or deceleration lengths. Interchanges and ramps are too close together, and the bridges have limited vertical and horizontal clearances. No significant improvements to the roadway capacity have been made since the original construction. This is resulting in hours of construction, not just in downtown, but on the freeways that feed into I-30 and I-35, such as State Highway 183. Speaking of State Highway 183, it too is in need of more capacity. Its last major lane expansion was completed in 1973. It will be reconstructed to form 6 to 8 general purpose lanes, 4 to 6 concurrent HOV managed lanes, and 4 frontage road lanes. This construction is now possible because of a funding mechanism provided by the Texas legislature. We'll speak with Irving City Councilmember Rick Stopfer in a moment to learn more about this project, the city's role in the planning process, and what it took to secure the funding for this project from the state. So far, we've heard a lot about expanding highway capacity, improving existing lanes, and adding managed lanes as a way to offer more options and alternative routes to drivers. But improving transit networks like DART and DCTA are also a part of the solution. DART's 14-mile Orange Line expansion is a key component of a regional rail network that will expand DART's footprint to 90 miles by 2014. The Orange Line will run parallel with the Green Line through downtown and to northwest Dallas. The Orange Line will then head northwest to Las Colinas Urban Center and then to DFW International Airport. However, one of the most successful collaborations has been with Denton County when the DART Green Line expanded to connect with the Denton County Transportation Authority's A-Train service. Now, light rail is an option for thousands of students traveling to and from the University of North Texas, Denton County residents who work in and around Dallas, as well as residents who need specialized medical care from Dallas medical facilities. Well, joining me today to talk about more rail projects and highways projects are Councilman Rick Stopfer, who is the Mayor Pro Tem of Irving, and also Charles Emery, who is the Chairman of DCTA, which is the Denton County Rail Authority. So we'll talk a little bit about Highway 183 and I-35. So Rick, tell us a little bit why the city is involved in 183.
Well, the city's been involved for about 10 years with the 183 project as we try to bring it to construction. It's a very unusual situation in that we're working with DFW Airport, the City of Irving, and the City of Dallas. So it's a joint venture between the cities and the entities that the 183 runs through. It's been in need of more capacity. It's one of the major east-west connections between the two I-35E and I-35W. So the city's been working with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Stemmons Corridor Group, and with the airport to bring together the businesses along the area as well as the residents and determine what the future needs are and how we can best meet them.
Well, we know that's a really congested part of town. There's no question about that. So we're really exciting that Irving has stepped up to the plate and is helping, solve that mobility question. And Charles, can you tell us a little bit maybe about I-35 and what DCTA and the county and city up in Denton are looking to do?
The I-35E CDA project, Linda, as you well know, starts at LBJ Freeway and goes 28 miles north to the north side of Denton, Texas. So that's a very lengthy corridor, and as a part of all of that, after CDA authority was granted in the 82nd legislature, a number of committees and task force were formed. I think DRMC got out in front of all of this by forming a stakeholders group, which is chaired by Judge Horn of Denton County, and that organization was initially, about a year ago, formed to act as a catalyst to move this project along. Louisville then formed for the South County part of Denton County an advisory group, and I've been involved in that, but it's really betterments and enhancements in the corridor that impacts South County. But now TxDOT has formed its own stakeholders group that will effectively focus on the I-35E project and will provide advice for funding and infrastructure development.
And I think that's a great point. Funding is really the key to all the transportation projects,
Absolutely.
Whether you're talking about highway transportation, whether you're talking about rail. And so, Rick, maybe you can tell us just a little bit about the funding portion of it. How is this innovative, and what will actually happen as far as trying to gather money to create you know, enough for the project.
Well, it's kind of an interesting concept with the managed lanes, which brings in a tolling component that is a way for revenue to be generated so it can help offset the costs of the road. We're working closely with the NTTA in being able to manage these lanes for us, and we're working with the private entities to look at how we can generate revenue through a public-private partnership. We'll also be working with the RTC and TxDOT and others to make sure that the funds are available.
Right, and that's terrific. It's sort of like the LBJ Express project.
Yes.
You know, kind of goes off of that model. So, you know, we've been in this arena for quite some time, and we think that we've come up with a good model, and this is just a continuation of that. Charles, how about the I-35 corridor? Is it similar?
Very similar. I mean, the CDA template is the same, and the one thing that really was a milestone for all of us was to get approval out of the Second Legislature. And in that process, we added 2 CDAs effectively for this region to the 3 that are already ongoing. 183 obviously was one, and I-35E. So we're set to go. The stakeholders groups are formed, and we're anxious to proceed in this whole process.
And like on the LBJ Express, the partnership is with a private entity.
Yes.
So that'll be the same with 35 and 183.
Correct.
And that's an interesting model to
is.
use, I guess. We're looking forward to seeing how that all plays itself out. Can you tell us anything about the challenges that you think that we may be facing in the future, even if we do use these models down the road? Is this a model that's going to be effective, you know, 5-10 years from now, or we'll be able to find some other funding source?
Well, I think it's a very effective way to build and reduce the congestion that we're seeing in the Metroplex, because there's not enough dollars you're seeing at the federal level and the state level that our funds are being cut back for transportation. So I think it's a very positive way to move forward. The people who are not able to afford to use the managed lanes can use the other lanes. We're actually giving them more capacity. If you look at the construction, there's actually more service roads being added as well as more free lanes. So those that want to get to and from faster are able to be charged a little extra, and they can do that. And by doing that, those of us who don't want to use more, those of us that do want to use it, have the ability to have the road there for a choice.
Right, and you know, that's something that the public sometimes forgets. There'll be no fewer lanes than there were before that are free. And there'll also be access roads, additional access roads, which is a real plus. And how about on 35? Is that the case on 35 as well?
I think it is, and Linda, I always like to make the point that I don't think any of us in regional leadership see the CDA program as the end-all, do-all. I mean, it is an obvious great time for that with the restricted funding at all levels, and we're going to use those, but I think we're all looking at a template that brings in the private sector, but obviously the public sector is going to have a continuing role. It's just that the public sector funding, as you mentioned before, has diminished greatly. Right,
and it's become a real challenge. Can you tell us, Charles, just a little bit about DCTA's future and how it plays a role in relieving congestion in the region and bettering air quality as well?
Well, I think let's just isolate the I-35E corridor. Maybe that starts to answer the question. Although we have in our service plan other corridors we'll address, but our initial program for rail particularly is really parallels I-35E for the Denton County portion of that facility. I think for our purpose, we're obviously working very closely with TxDOT because we're tangential to the I-35E corridor. And in a couple of places, it's going to be very sensitive. So I think as part of the overall construction project, yes, we will be right in there with TxDOT in those areas where we're tangential. I think for I-35E, and this is good for us, but while construction's going on for the next 5 to 7 years,
right.
I'm very concerned that we have enough rail cars, quite frankly, to accommodate the traffic. And I think on back side of all of that, usually when people get used to riding rail for that period of time, they'll continue, a great part of them will continue to ride it.
I think that's true. Tell us just a little bit about this new technology, the A-Train.
This is a new vehicle to this region, although it's been introduced in Austin with Cap Metro, has a Stadler GTW, if that's what you're talking about, the vehicle itself. It's one we're really excited about. We've ordered 11 train sets, and a train set is really 2 passenger cars connected by an engine car. So when we talk about it, we really have 2 passenger units. The total capacity for all of that is about 200 seating and standing. It is a diesel-electric vehicle. In other words, it has diesel engines driving electric motors, and I think that's where fuel safety and the environment comes into play. It has low floor, lower boarding, just like our DART system has at this juncture, and it's ADA compliant. The one thing that we're still working on with Washington is the waiver process that deals with crashworthiness and all of that when you operate with both freight and heavy passenger rail.
Yes, we know that's an issue.
And that is something that we have really made progress on, and I think in the spring of next year we will have a waiver from Washington that will allow us to use this vehicle simultaneously with heavy passenger rail and freight rail. And I think that'll be a great first step for our region in completing our passenger rail system. Right,
I think that's a really good point. Well, Rick, I'm going to let you kind of wrap this up a little bit, but I want you to talk about, as you do that, the goods movement through the Highway 183 corridor and how that is also important. You know, as passengers, we travel through there all the time, you know, just in our cars, but I think few people realize that goods movement is really an important issue along the Highway 183.
Well, I think that the east-west connection that 183 provides for 35 and 35 is extremely important. And I don't think that people really understand the amount of goods service that come into our area. Right now, when goods come in from the Port of Long Beach, about 40% of them come through the DFW area for breakdown. In other words, they're brought here in the containers and then they're dispersed through our distribution centers across the area. So there's a tremendous amount of freight that comes into our area that's dispersed throughout the rest of the country, as well as those goods that we need for every day in our area. And so being able to move the trucks and the freight through this corridor is extremely important to us. The airport, a lot of people don't realize, but DFW Airport is one of the largest movers of freight in the world. And so a good share of the freight comes in through there as well. And that's another whole component to DFW that sometimes gets overlooked when we talk about DFW, but that all comes through this area as well. About 60% of the traffic that comes out of DFW comes either through the 183, the 114, or the 635 corridor towards Dallas.
Oh, that's interesting. You know, so it's just not cars that are on the roads, it's trucks, and it really has to do a lot with goods movement as well. So 183 is certainly an important corridor, certainly even coming down to the Stemmons corridor area.
Exactly.
So any concluding thoughts that either one of you might have to make on either one of these corridors, these transportation corridors? I'll start with you, Rick.
Well, Linda, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the 183 corridor and the goods movement and the movement of traffic to reduce the congestion. We are very fortunate in this area to have a very good MPO, a good RTC, and I think the DRMC that we all are members of complement that. The three of us working together, three organizations, I think are tackling the transportation needs for the Metroplex, and I'm excited to be part of it and look forward to the next legislative session when we can step up and show them what we've done.
Well, I know you've been doing a great job, and we appreciate all the effort, especially that you've put into it. You belong to so many transportation groups and are kind of a guru in that area, so we certainly appreciate you taking time today with us and talking to us about the importance of transportation. And Charles, do you have any concluding comments?
Linda, I believe in this region we have the best transportation minds and organizations of any region in the country. And I think the fact that the components of this region have come together and faced transportation issues as a region have accounted for a lot of the progress we've made. So I think the great minds, the great organizations, and certainly the compatibility of the components of this region have allowed us to really, I think, stay ahead of the curve when it comes to transportation challenges.
Well, we look forward to both of you continuing to work on transportation projects for the entire region. We appreciate your regional approach to transportation, and I know the drivers in the Metroplex appreciate it as well. So thank you both, gentlemen, for spending your morning with us and coming and educating us about the different projects that are going on in the region. Thank you both.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. As you can see, North Texas's future transportation systems requires cooperation from public and private entities, as well as all levels of government. Mobility 2035 is putting the emphasis on multimodal transportation. It's a long-range plan that strategically addresses the areas of need while maximizing the infrastructure we already have. Composed from a regional perspective, the projects currently underway or planned for construction will bring the greatest amount of benefits to North Texas in terms of reduced congestion, better air quality, and a richer quality of life. But we have a huge gap between our needs and funding. TxDOT has said that by 2012, there will be no more funding available for new projects. While bonds and stimulus money and grants and public-private partnerships are enabling us to just scratch the surface of our plans, a long-term solution is needed that will enable us to pay back our loans and fund new projects. To stay informed about important transportation issues affecting our region or the state and federal policies affecting funding for these projects, join the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition. Visit www.dallasmobility.org to learn more.